Hello! Hello, hello, hello. I hope you're all well. We are back for a WIP Wednesday, and apologise we're a little bit later than we originally wanted to be. This is why I've not really set any specific times for my schedule going forward. Next week, though, it is going to be properly into effect, which is effectively going to be from around about 2 o'clock going onwards. Usually about 2 o'clock till about 5, with a couple of exceptions, largely being Tuesdays. But yeah, we had a bit of a busy day today, for one thing. And for another, I've just spent a good chunk of this evening completely changing my setup. So you won't be able to see it from this camera up here, though that's one of the big things that's changed as well. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, a lot has changed, and definitely for the better. I would argue this is the best my setup has ever looked for a long time. And functionally, I think I've hit the nail on the head for how everything needs to be set. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get stuck in with some painting. Um, it's WIP Wednesday, so I am going to be working on some works in progress. And by all means, if you yourselves have anything you're working on, anything you want to show off, chuck it into our Discord. We'll do a big roundup of it, and we'll probably hop in and out over the course of the stream, just seeing what you've all been working on, because I want to see, I want to take a look. I think it's going to be great. To commemorate the release of I say release, because it's pre-order weekend this weekend, for the Space Marines Codex for 10th edition, I'm going to be cracking back on with some of my Salamanders. I have actually, whilst I've been doing the painting classes, been painting up some in some Infernus Marines and some Hellblasters for my Salamanders. But because I'm slightly sick of the sight of those, and I do still have some Salamanders of other varieties I do want to work on, we're going to be cracking on with our Aggressors, which made an appearance a little while back, but I didn't ever actually finish the whole squad, so the goal for tonight is to try and get them as close to this finished article as possible. You'll notice they look slightly different. That's because this one I was trying to do a sort of non-metallic metal look with the green on it. But that's something I'm largely going to be replicating on the 2 or 3 named characters, the 2 or 3 HQ characters that I have for my Salamander army. Whereas these, I just painted them whilst doing a ton of batch painting, which was largely zenithal highlights and then contrast paint over the top, green ink over the top of that. There's a way to effectively crack through 1,000 points worth of Salamanders in an hour. It took me to get them all to that level. So we're gonna finish them off tonight. At least that's what we're gonna aim for.
We're here for the cult stuff.
Hey everyone, smiley face.
Hi, Pete. Hope you're well. It's good to see you around, definitely. There we go. Oh, good. We've got our autofocus all sorted out there. Brilliant. Right, let's crack on into it. How are you doing anyway, Pete? Thank you for the resub. It is greatly appreciated, as always. Right, I think the main thing I want to do with these, because have I got the gold, the brass and gold done on them, or do I need to do a bit more with that? I feel like I maybe need to do a bit more with that, and definitely a little bit of highlighting on them. So yeah, I think that's going to be my main job for the night. Doing good, thanks yourself. I'm actually doing really well, thank you. Definitely. Definitely doing well. Right, okay. Let's get a little bit of glorious gold. Bit of glorious gold. We're going to be using some black for the shoulder pads and the sergeant's helmet. So in fact, it might make more sense for me to just get all the paints out that I'm going to probably be using quite a bit over the course of the night. You're looking well. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm feeling well. Like, I'm feeling genuinely the best I've felt in a very long time. I swear, the antihistamines are doing me wonders. So, for those of you who may not be following me on Threads or on Instagram or anything like that, I've actually started HRT as of like 3 days ago. And yeah, like, no noticeable physical side effects for the most part, but mentally I feel the best I have ever felt in my life. I love it. So yeah. We're getting somewhere. Right. Gold, black. Probably some gunmetal, actually. For the few metallic bits that aren't going to be in... that aren't going to be brassy gold. What else? What else? I don't know if we're going to get as far as doing the purity seals, but just in case we do. We'll get a little bit of bone white out for that. And... what else? I am thinking some brown for reasons. Reasons that'll become clear later. Let's see. Brown, what else? Definitely a couple of greens, because I'm going to need to do some corrective work. So I'm going to get some lime green and some scorpion green. Escapena green. Just for that hint of brightness, that brings it back to the sort of mid-tones that I've been using. Some gold yellow. What else? What else? I feel like that's going to be the vast majority of the paints I'm going to need. Ah, some red. We'll go with scarlet red. Again, if we get as far as doing the purity seals, that's pretty much going to be what we're going to need for that. So, little drop of very dark red for that. And we can also use that on the eye lenses as well. So, let's go for it. First things first, let's get that. Let's finish off all the metallics. Because this should be nice and easy for the most part. Tell you what. Completely forgot some paper towel. There we go. We'll just very selectively add some highlights to some of that trim. Just kind of thinking about where the light is falling on it, but also where the light would be at its most brightest. So like for the example of this skull, we'll just highlight about half of it. Will, however, for the most part, leave the barrels of the flamers alone. Because they're pretty much where I want them to be. Don't feel like I need to do too much more with those. In fact, I might even do just like a spot shading down. Yeah, just a little bit of a spot shade down on those areas. And same on things like the wings. The wings and that Crozius there as well. I don't mind so much if I get any of this out on the flatter areas of the shoulder pads. Simply because we're going to be painting over those inside areas with some black anyway. So it really doesn't matter that much at this particular moment in time. I'm mostly just trying to pick out a few details and go over and do some corrections as and where they're needed. We'll just catch the edges, just like so. Same goes for up here, and again it helps correct some of that area where there's still a little bit of green showing through. And again, we'll just catch certain areas of the detailing around the inside of that Promethium tank, which we'll probably do the rest of that in in gunmetal anyway. Sorry, I've got like a... Yeah, there we are. I've got like a little spelk on the side of my finger. There we are. Let's get rid of that. That was just really irritating me. Right, with that in mind, we'll probably stick with this brush for now, because a lot of the areas that I'm going to be doing... Actually, no, I shouldn't. I shouldn't move on to the next colour. What I really should do is... Because I've still got 2 of these to work on, so it makes sense to do it this way. One at a time. I say, if I can get this whole squad of aggressors done, I'll be happy. Shame, though, that we are in the off-season for Shame Golf, because it doesn't count towards points. But oh well. Because yeah, that's a nice easy 8 points right there. If I get all these finished. There we are. Still keeping it relatively simple and still trying to treat it very much like brass. So we don't want to flood it with gold, because that does kind of defeat the point of it a little bit. It's mostly just to pick out a few little areas so you get kind of like a nice, shiny, like very carefully polished, well-maintained brass. Oh, and as if I completely forgot this whole area. Okay, I don't mind so much doing these bits in gold. Just because they're very minor details. You should really check though, just to see if, just to make sure there aren't any other bits that I may have missed. I don't think so. I think we're literally just down to the details on these Prometheum tanks. And because for these are for the most part rank and file, I'm trying not to put like a massive amount of time and energy into them. Like, yeah, there's only going to be 1 unit of these in my squad. In the army, that is, but There we go. We could come back and tidy that up again a little bit later if we need to. Again, it's only just for those minor details, but you can kind of see the difference already between the brass with gold highlights and just straight up gold. It's a subtle difference, but it's definitely there. Right, with that in mind, we'll thin down the gunmetal. I'm going to start blocking in all of the other metallics now. So any silvers, any steels, we'll hit them all with this colour just to keep it nice and uniform. But for the most part, it's mostly just going to be steel. There's not really much in the way of silver on these models. Any affectations and stuff are all being painted in gold or brass, so... There we go. We'll also do the inner workings of the flame gauntlets here as well, including these connectors as well, where these hoses all sort of connect up to the fists there. There we go. Just a bit more water so it can flow a bit nicer. Get into those harder to reach areas a lot quicker. And as always, we'll probably need to do a quick second coat of this. But for now we're pretty happy with how that's looking. Right, same again. We've got these sort of connection points here. And we also have these clips that hold the tubes and hoses together in one place. So like metallic cable ties. I'm sure there's probably a word for that, but I have no idea what it could be. And I really don't care either, to be honest with you. For our purposes, it doesn't especially matter. They just need to be painted in silver just to help break them up a little bit. And just because it's one of those like little details that adds like a tiny hint of realism. Hello, Almond. How are you doing? I mean, you say sup, but to be honest with you, that typo still kind of works because it just looks like A up. I mean, you do live in the Northeast after all, so that is the more appropriate greeting than sup. A up. Doing excellent. The COC session today was awesome. Yes, it sounded it from what you were messaging me. Please tell us all about it. You know, I miss Call of Cthulhu so badly. I will happily live vicariously through yourself. Also, question: is the version of it you're playing the newest edition, or is the DM running one of the older editions? Because I know you've played in 5th edition, which is the one I used to run. I'd be curious to get your thought. If you are playing the newer edition, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on it. Going through this scenario by the GM in 7th ed. Right, so you are playing the newest edition then. Most the same as far as I can tell. Right, okay. That's curious. Maybe it's just from the GM's perspective then, that the difference has become more noticeable, because what I've read and what I've been told of the key differences between 7th and all the previous editions is they've kind of added a lot of needless faffery. But by the sounds of things, that seems to mostly affect the way the DM runs things rather than how the players interact with it, which I suppose is possibly like slightly less egregious, but the GM said 7th makes things easier on the GM. Right, okay, that is curious then. Maybe I might actually have to have a look into it and see how I feel about it overall. But yeah, tell us all about your session and how it went. Like I said, I want to live vicariously through you. I do really want to bring Call of Cthulhu back at some point. It's just finding the time. And to a lesser extent, the players. I don't think 5th had degrees of success like this one does. Yes, it does. It does, but it's a lot more open to interpretation. Like, I had this discussion with somebody who's played a lot of 7th Ed themselves, and they argued that the older editions didn't have degrees of success, and I'd say only if you take what's written in the rule set and don't actually put your brain to it. If you roll under your skill but above half, it's just a success. Which, again, makes sense. If you roll under half but above a fifth of your skill, that's a mid-success. Okay. And below a fifth of your skill is a crit. Right, okay. That feels like it adds a bit of needless maths to it, but that's just me. As I know if you anything with 96 is an auto fail. That seems a little off because some people's skills can be as high as that. Like, it takes a long ass time for you to get to that kind of point, and it's almost impossible. Like if you're playing in a very short campaign, for you to end up with skills that get as high as that. But that just does feel a little bit kind of not ideal, to say the least. I don't know. Maybe I need to give it a chance. Or maybe I'm just a bit of a stubborn stick in the mud. Because as far as I'm concerned, and still, as far as I have always been concerned, actually, original Call of Cthulhu, like the first 5 or 6 editions of it, or to put it in other words, the BRP system, basic role-playing system, is possibly the best RPG system there is. Like, it's so elegant, it's so simple. It's very clear how things are done and how success is a threat in it. But at the same time, it still leaves open a lot of room for the DM to have some fun with it. But I also know that's like personal subjectiveness. So, one of my players got himself shot by a mobile task force. All right. Okay, so I'm curious. You did say to me that somehow this DM's managed to fold in the SCP universe into his Call of Cthulhu game. My question then is, what time period are you playing in? Because I can see that being a little bit more likely, to say the least, if you're playing in like 90s Cthulhu, or modern day, or heck, even Delta Green. But like the 1800s or 1920s Call of Cthulhu, that would be very, very different. 1920s, but timey-wimey. Oh, maybe site security, I'm not quite sure about the difference. I mean, the difference is kind of in the name. Mobile Task Force is, yeah, they're mobile. They're the ground troops of the SCP Foundation. They go into places and they take care of stuff, whereas site security stays on site for the most part. So I suppose it really depends on, have you somehow stumbled into one of the Foundation sites, or have you stumbled across an MTF in the middle of a mission? Like, out in the wild, sort of. But 1920s but timey-wimey, that's quite cool. I'm not gonna lie, that is kind of awesome. The first. Okay. Okay, in which case then I suppose you could make an argument for it being either, only because you could still come across an MTF on site that haven't gone out yet or that are gearing up to go out on a mission. Azathoth be Azathothing. Yeah, that's curious. I'm wondering, is this DM doing a pre-written adventure, or is this something of their own making? Because if it's a pre-written adventure, depending on if it's one that's come out specifically for 7th edition, I think I might have an idea what it could be. Oh, its own thing. Alright, that's awesome. That is really cool. I'm not gonna lie, that is genuinely brilliant. I do still have some ideas of my own for a Call of Cthulhu adventure. Like ones that aren't pre-written, but I think I'd probably run some of the pre-written ones. If I do end up running it again anytime soon, just because it's easier. And it's a nice way to ease people into it, especially if they've never played it before. Because it is, if you all you're used to is D&D, it's a wildly different beast. So we all live in Arkham. Ooh, okay. Exciting. Definitely exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like if the SCP Foundation coexisted in the same universe as the Lovecraft mythos, pretty much the entirety of Arkham would probably just be cordoned off and listed as an SCP in and of itself. Like, they'd probably turn it into one of their sites. Been summoned to the reading of the will of the recently deceased Pete O'Reilly. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Basically, our task is to spend the entirety of the weekend in this mansion, and if we survive, we inherit everything. I mean, that feels like one of those. Like I don't know. Would you risk something like that? I feel like that's one of those things that would have to be carefully worded. Like, if some solicitor turned around to me and said, right, you've been named as a beneficiary in this eccentric rich person's will, and you'll inherit everything they own, but you have to spend a couple of nights in their house. Like, I'd be like, okay, well, this sounds like a haunted house kind of thing, but you know what? I'm game for it. We'll see what happens. But if they word it specifically as if you survive the weekend, then I'd be like, perhaps not. Maybe find someone else. Night when we found a modified Hand of Glory in a secret compartment in the library. Oh, fantastic. That's just what you want. Start as you mean to go on, I guess. Trying to think if there's anything else that I'd need to paint in the silver. I don't think so. Except maybe that little bit down there. No, I think we're good. I think we are good. Right. A glory hand. Oh God. Yeah, when you word it like that, it doesn't make it any. It doesn't make it particularly good, does it? As well as evidence that there is a passage to somewhere in the library fireplace. Yeah, okay, that's pretty standard fare. You know, rich eccentric person. Why wouldn't they have a mysterious portal in their fireplace? Oh, yes. I forgot, that is one announcement I wanted to make. We are currently running a payday weekend offer on our 3D print store that runs from now all the way up until Monday, I do believe, is it? Where, yes, you'll get free shipping. I think it's free shipping above orders of a certain amount. I want to say £20, but I'd have to double check. Time for the party here. 4th of October, so Wednesday. Minimum order 25. Ah, right. Yeah, so free shipping for all orders of £25 or more. Thankfully, the party is two sensible members that could dissuade the unsensible one from activating and going through the fireplace. Yeah, again, that feels like the sensible approach. Oh, there's a mysterious portal in this fireplace. Maybe leave it alone and don't see where it goes. Like, just do the sensible thing. Pretend it doesn't exist. You know, that way, if you survive the weekend and you do inherit the mansion, you've got a nice conversation piece for any visitors. This is our lounge, and over there's the mysterious hell portal. No, we have no idea where it goes, and quite frankly, we'd prefer it if you didn't attempt to try and find out. So I went to sleep in the morning, one of us was missing. Did they go through the hell portal? Is that what happened? Nope. Are you sure? Did you just check? They were kidnapped into the future and onto an SCP site where their future self has an office. Okay then. Was this one of the player characters, or is this an NPC? Because I feel like that's quite important information to consider as well. PC then missed the session, so we need an absence reason. That's a pretty damn good absence reason, all things considered. Also, that PC is going to be heckin' surprised when they come back. Like, wow, talk about having missed quite a bit. So, congratulations, last session you encountered your future self. Found a passage in his room and went after him. As you do. I'd say no man left behind, but surely if there's fewer of you, then that's fewer people to split the inheritance from the will with. That's the thing. Do you all have to survive in order to be beneficiaries, or like could it be set up like a tontine kind of situation where whoever survives, whoever's still left alive, gets it all at the end of the weekend? Came across a lake of blood. Okay. See, maybe it's at that point that I would probably be going, yeah, is this really worth it? We crossed it and our equipment aged 8 or 9 decades in the process. What? Yeah, timey-wimey stuff. Azathoth do indeed be Azathothing. Strictly speaking, actually, probably be more likely to be Yogg-Sothoth that's doing, that will be doing weird time shenanigans, but you know, like what one unknowable eldritch entity is a fairly good placeholder for any other, really. At the end of the day, we are all kind of the same. On the other side, there was a modern 2000 security door which we managed to open. God, I hate to break it to you, but 2000s isn't actually all that modern anymore. That's 25 years ago. Yikes. Oof. That's a scary thought. Which then into a hallway that later turned out to be part of an SCP site. Fun. Fun times. But yeah, that was kind of a thing. Me and Ember the other day were talking about this local theme park that we used to go to a lot as kids, because schools quite often used to take kids to it. At least kids from our local area. And I sort of made the comments of, God, I think I must have been younger than 16 last time I was there. and she made the comment of, yeah, that was like 2 decades ago. I was like, for a moment I was kind of thinking, oh, she's being cheeky again, making the oh, you're getting old joke. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized she's actually right. Like, we're in 2023 now. Like, last time I'll have been, I would have been somewhere around 16 or so, like 15 or 16, possibly even younger than that. So yeah, it's been almost 20 years since I was last there, and that was just like, oh god. That's scary to think about. Found a morgue where our missing PC was. Not dead, just unconscious. Uh-huh. As well as some of the bodies whose fingers were on the hand of glory. Okay, then. So, what's keeping you all in this mansion, then? Like, as well as a perfect copy of the deceased Mr. O'Reilly. Again, I refer you back to my question. Like, what is actually keeping you all in that mansion? What other than, I suppose, buy-in to the adventure is stopping you all from going, yeah, fuck this, we're going? This inheritance is not worth all this bullshit. It's like the old Richard Pryor joke that most horror movies, especially like haunted house movies, would be over within like 5 minutes if it was entirely starring black people. His argument being that they'd walk into the house, find out it's haunted, and just go, right, we're going. Oh, look at this place! It's lovely. It's got local connections to the school. You got that. It's got wonderful decorations, and it's dripping blood out of the walls. And there's the ghost of a girl, sort of backwards crab walking down the stairs. Right, pack your bags, kids. We're moving out. One of our PCs got shot, and also there's a probably evil butler. Again, what is keeping you in this mansion? What is physically stopping you from just going, no, we're going now? This is not our problem? Just the ghost of a bartender like in The Shining. Oh, Christ almighty. The guy who got shot this session, last session, acquired phasmophobia from said Shining encounter. It's a bad that for one sec it took me a solid like second or two to realize you meant as in the actual fear of ghosts and not the video game by the same name. Oh, you acquired phasmophobia. Okay, that was quite nice then. Got a fun video game out of the deal. Sweet. Can you tell he's new to Cthulhu? Yes, because you don't go and interact with the ghost of the bartenders. That's why I'll always absolutely love like our mutual friends stories from some of their old Call of Cthulhu games, and one of the players who again did the sensible thing, managed to avoid all of the horrors and spooks of the adventures by just spending most of the time in a tea shop. All right, okay, you're all going to investigate the haunted mine. That's fine. Have fun. I'm just gonna sit here and finish my cup of tea, and I'll wait for you to get back. Literally, him just walking up to the bar made me go, I am picturing the scene from The Shining, which made the GM grin. I love the hair of the dog that bit me, Lloyd. God, I need to rewatch that film sometime soon. Meanwhile, this guy didn't click something was up until the bartender walked through the bar. God. So if he all of a sudden starts coming at you all with an axe or a croquet mallet, then you know you done goofed, right? Oh, you by any chance placing another Temu order, Ember? He test this for some custom made dice. So I was going to give freebies. Ooh. I didn't realize. Wait, we're going into custom made dice? Since when? Fully expecting a headspace outback. Oh, crikey. You're all screwed. It's as simple as that. There's no two ways about it. You're all screwed. Right, I feel like that's all of the silver metallic areas done. So I can probably move on now. Been working on it as a side project. Oh, okay. I didn't think we had the right kind of resin to do resin cast dice, for one thing. And we certainly don't have the right equipment for it either, but that's news to me. But I'll happily be a tester for custom made dice. Okay, they be Tyranid based though. I mean, that's awesome. Find our unsensible party member is bedbound due to a leg gun wound and hopped up on twice-aged morphine. Oh, crikey. I'm not gonna lie, this campaign sounds fantastic. also, again, sounding very much like our mutual friends and one of their Call of Cthulhu games, where they had a player who's apparently he was one of those types of people who tends to play the same types of characters, and their characters effectively a cross between Punisher and Wolverine. But in the case of this Call of Cthulhu game, they decided to go full Indiana Jones, despite being warned many, many, many times over. Despite being warned many times over that Call of Cthulhu is just simply too deadly a game to play like the big swashbuckling sort of Indiana Jones, Alan Quatermain type adventurer. Like, you just can't get away with that because your character will likely not survive long enough to be able to be much use. Didn't listen, ended up in a fight with a mummy, to which he miraculously survived, but still ended up with both his legs broken in 3 places as he rolled a strength check to grapple the mummy, failed massively because mummies are nothing to sniff at in Call of Cthulhu. Like, as far as combat goes, combat is deadly anyway, but certain supernatural beings are just ridiculously strong. Picked him up by the legs and smacked him into a stone pillar several times over. So I can sincerely hope that this particular player of yours has learned their lesson. Don't fuck with the supernatural. If you can't run away, then roll a new character because you're gonna need it. Guy got shot today. The GM literally had to look up the stats for modern weapons. Ah, Christ almighty. Remember rightly, the old 5th edition players investigators guide, like sourcebook thing. I don't quite remember the name of it. In the weapons table does include the stats for rifles and like modern day rifles. But yeah, they just don't tend to get used very often. JM is welcome to more players. Whoops. I'll have a think about that. I can't make any promises, though. Just simply because... yeah, it's very difficult to get places at the moment. That, and I'm very busy with a lot of stuff. Be nice to have a few days in a week where I don't have to worry about all that sort of stuff. It's like I am very tempted to join a couple of D&D games, either in person or online, or even start up another D&D campaign. Again, either in person or online. It's just where can I find the time for it? That's my main problem at the moment. But it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. Like, I'm keeping myself busy. And it's all with good stuff. Like, there's a possibility with the painting classes that we might be doing them on 2 nights a week now instead of just on Tuesday nights. We might also be doing them on Saturdays as well. That's how good things are going at the moment, but it does also mean like free time is a thing in very short supply currently. I'm trying my best to not burn myself out, but at the same time I'm still really enjoying myself with like everything that we've got going on. Yes, whose PC is going to get slightly obsessed with the Foundation? Ooh. So you're not doing the sensible thing of this is well and truly above our remit. Let's stay the heck out of it. You do have a joyous, like from a DM's perspective, tendency of diving headfirst into the mythos. I've decided the sergeants and sort of leader units of my forces, of my salamanders, gonna have black helmets. It's not a canonical thing, but it is more of a personal choice, and I still think it works. Just sets them apart that little bit more so. Of course not, I have sanity 28 and I'm fine. Okay. You let me know in a couple of weeks' time how well that's working for you. One of those 2 sanity and 3 sessions, I'm basically immortal. Aha, okay. That just means you haven't hit that sort of slippery slope yet. Just wait till that happens. I feel like your DM's kind of ramping things up a bit. Then our insensible party member is the one with the temporary madness. Okay, at least his madness is only temporary. Managed to gain a look back today. That's awesome. Well done. Now we just got to wait for those to dry now. Well, whilst we're at it, we can go ahead and paint in all the gaps between the armor panels, all the where the void suit's exposed. Made the GM laugh. Oh, that's good. Here we go. Not too many areas we need to work with there. As being needed got cuffed to a cooler door in the SCP morgue, we were looking around to stop him from compromising stuff. Smart, definitely. Can't imagine the player appreciated that, but they'll soon learn. I kind of get the feeling they're going to be one of those people that are either going to eventually figure out that what they think they can do in D&D they're not going to be able to do in Call of Cthulhu, and just kind of like get with the program a little bit, or they're going to absolutely hate it and quickly realize this is not for them. Looking at the buddy in that cool when I was done, I was snarky at the player and slammed the cooler top. They were stuck up to shut. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, thank you for the hydrate there, Ember. I will deal with that in just a moment. Just going to quickly check, make sure there's nothing else that I feel could benefit from being done in black. Basically, I was struggling against the cuffs and it was causing pain in their hands. They asked me to look at their hand because I'm an MD in game. Alright, okay. Made a comment about relaxing and slammed the coolest shirts. Love it. Right. Okie dokie. I probably will need to go back over those areas of the second cut, but for now, I think we can quite happily move on. So I'm going to go into the brown that we laid out earlier. I'm just going to paint the entirety of these tubes here that feed from the Prometheum tanks on the back into the flame fists. And this is so we can do the yellow and black hazard stripe pattern on them much, much easier. I missed TOC. Aww. I'm sorry I've not really been in any kind of position to run it for a while, but yeah, I'm glad you're managing to get back into it. That actually makes me happy. I do miss it myself. One of these days, we'll find the right group to the right people to run it with, and I'll be able to bring it back. It's a shame that as much as Stu enjoyed it when he was in it, he has no real interest in playing it again. Because I'd be curious to try and run it again for all of us lot, for our D&D group. Like maybe even around October time. October, November, and maybe even through December. Do some like spooky gaming. Especially because apparently Steve really enjoys horror-based RPGs, which is that's encouraging. That's good. Gives me some scope for future, definitely. Like I was saying to you before, I miss it. I do miss some aspects of our hometown. But for the most part, I am a lot happier down here. I feel like it's been a big part of the fresh start that I've sorely needed for a lot of years now. I know, I know. I don't mind. Friday will be the best. Oh. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so happy for you. I hope you have an amazing time. I forget, is he coming down to you for the weekend, or are you going up to go visit him? Oh, you're going to go visit him. Ah, right. Oh, well, I hope you do have a really good time. I think it'll be good for you to get out of that town for a little bit. 5 a.m. bus from Borough to Glasgow. Ouch. How long's that journey going to take you? Five and a half hours. Oof. Oh, well, okay. Well, I suppose you can always get plenty of sleep on the bus itself. Well, I do hope you have a safe journey. And if you need someone to chat to keep you company whilst you're on that long ass journey, feel free. Plus, we'll be doing a video game stream here, so if you want something over here on the Friday afternoon, so if you want something to watch to keep you going throughout that, then that'll be something you can always catch up with. Yeah, loads of time with him. Oh, that's wonderful. Genuinely, I'm really happy for you. No, I've just about to see you saying we're kind of heading off for the weekend. No, heading off for the evening. No problem, Simon. Thank you for stopping by, and I'm really happy for you. I'm really happy that things are going really well for you. You have an amazing time, and I will see you again next time you pop in. Most of the way to a second honk. Well, we'll be streaming again tomorrow afternoon, so if you come stick around for that, you'll probably make it all the way to a second honk. Right. Okie dokie. And for the most part, I think I may as well just stick with this brush. Like, this seems to be doing pretty much everything I need to at the moment. Right, what we can do now, we'll do a little bit of corrective work with all the green. So I'm just going to mix up. Ooh, that's not quite the right shade. Feel like I maybe need to add a little bit of... Throw a little bit of sick green in there, maybe. That's a bit too bright. That's a little better, I think. I think I'm just going to have to be very particular about this, because it's going to run the risk of just looking a bit too odd and out of place. Not going to worry about the inside of that shoulder pad there. Sorry, shoulder pad, that knee pad there. Yeah, there we are. It's mostly any areas where we've kind of gone over with like the metallics. They're sort of the main culprits here. I think I'll also use this as well, just to blend in some of that paint a little bit better, because I've noticed on certain areas where the ink sprayed over the top just looks a little bit off. Right, so we'll just work into just the sick green for the darker areas. It's not going to be quite an exact colour match, but it's going to be pretty bloody close, and that's kind of the main thing. Actually, yeah, the sick green is pretty much a perfect colour match for most of these areas. There we go. Right, should be able to do the same with this one. Again, just anywhere. Anywhere there's been sort of overspray. Or where we've accidentally gone out with any of the metallics. Yeah, for like the lighter areas we can get away with using some of these brighter greens. And same again, we can use some of this just to blend these colours in a bit. There we are. I think that takes care of the vast majority of it. And it keeps that nice and neat. So, a little bit of corrective work, but pretty minimal. Sorry, just getting used to the new camera setup, because it doesn't have manual focus like my old one did. Instead, there is not like a weird element of autofocus. I have to sort of go in and keep toggling on and off. Okay, with that night over nice and quick, what we can do is go into the purity seals and make a start on that. And same with anything else that's going to be red. Which, for the most part, there's only going to be a few details. And it's going to be things like these ropes. And the tubing that sits alongside the thicker tubes going from the Prometheum tanks into the flame gauntlets. And for the most part, we're just trying to be as careful as we can with our placement of colours. Because though red and green are opposite each other on the colour wheel, so red makes a very good sort of accent colour for green and vice versa, there is always the association of red and green equals Christmas, and I am trying to avoid that wherever possible. Sometimes it's like there's not much you can do about it, you just kind of have to go with it. But there are ways of mitigating it. Usually by like using darker variants of each. like whichever is the brighter and most dominant color, the accent color you do a darker variant of. So with a lot of these reds, we're going to be doing a sort of like subdued, almost like brownish orange version of them. And just carefully like that. Again, trying to stop as we get to the brackets. Just so we keep that silver in place. And carefully does it. Oh. Just as we work towards the insides here. And if we're not quite careful and we get a little bit of the red out onto the green, that's fine. That can be corrected. It's easy if we don't have to, but it can be. Well, what I'll do is I'll wait till I've got a good coverage on each of those, and we'll go in and do any corrective work that we need to. I'm starting to notice a few areas that we missed in our first pass of corrections with the green. So what we'll do is we'll go back in and deal with those in just a moment. Whilst we fix up any areas that we need to after having painted up those tubes. Right. With that in mind, we can move on. Right, same as before. We'll start with the purity seal. We'll just block the wax in on that in red. And then we can do the same very carefully with any of these sort of decorative ropes. And you've got the tassels from this one just hanging down like that, so we'll just quickly hit those with the red as well. I can already tell that we're going to have quite a bit of corrective work to do. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. It may require a couple more layers than it did with the metallics, only because the red is quite such a powerful colour. It's very vivid. Like, even though it is a darker shade of red, it is still pretty vivid. There we go. And at this stage, it doesn't matter so much if we get any of that red out onto the brown, because again, we can very quickly correct that up. And we're going to be painting over the brown anyway with black and yellow. So it's borderline not even really going to matter. Really, the brown is mostly there just to make the yellow easier to paint. There we go. And there we are. It's made things nice and straightforward. So what we'll do now is we'll go back in and we'll correct about any of the green. Just because it's easier to do that now at this particular stage. Just before we move on. We'll just add in a little bit of the brighter green there, just whilst we trace around the inside of the purity seal there. And same goes with dealing with where the red tubing meets any of the green elements of the armour. I think we're quite fortunate with this one. There really isn't much to correct. It's all pretty straightforward with that, so that's fine. What we'll do in which case is we'll quickly just go back over the brown with a quick second coat. And really, for the most part, we're just going to need to do quick little second coats of all the colours we've worked with so far tonight. But again, I'd say just to finish up the base coat of like all of the elements, so at the very least everything has at least some paint on it. We can go into the parchment on the purity seals with some bone white. And I might actually do something a little different here. I might mix in just the tiniest hair of green into that. A little bit more. There we are. 2 hairs and some air. There we go. Just go slightly off, slightly greenish hue to it. Just ties it in with the green used on the rest of the model. Sort of keeping that as kind of like a mother colour. There we are. Again, it's just a minor detail, but it does make a bit of a difference. There we go. Right. As I say, all that's really left to do is to do quick second coat of all of our base colours. Which also allows us to correct up any little areas where we might have got paint out where we shouldn't have, or where we've missed spots. This gives us a chance to correct those areas too. There we go. So this won't take long at all. This still tend to go by very quickly. There we go. Yeah, we just need to do it with this one as well. There we go. Carefully does it. And this is where things are going to get a little tricky. It's just trying to do the inside of that tube there. But again, I'm trying not to sweat it too much, because it is an area of the model that people just aren't going to see. On that note, did forget to do the underside of the purity seal here on this particular model. So we'll just catch that. Right, next up will be to just go over some of that red very lightly with a second coat, mostly just dotting it into place. That gives us a bit more control over what we're doing and where the red itself goes. And keep it to just those important areas. And there we go. Just carefully does it, just in the areas where it's needed. Again, where we're working around these ropes, just very lightly dotting it into place. Just for the sake of the coverage that's needed. Oh. Just like that, nice and careful. Right. And just whilst we have this paint on our brush, what we'll do as well is we'll very carefully just work this into the eye lenses. Just like so. And we can work on adding a bit more depth to those later. But for now, it's just about blocking the colour in. There we go. Right. So with that in mind, what we can do is we can go back into our gold, just for a few little details that I know I missed the first time round, which is mostly just like the little edges on the Aquila here, on the Sergeant's chest, and just that little spot right there where there's still a bit of green poking through. Just like that. While we're at it, we'll also neaten up the top edge of the wings of the Aquila, where we've gone on with a little bit of red. Oh my god, I completely missed. There's a second purity seal on this one. It's literally just hiding there behind the knees. Okay. Right. Just a tiny dot of red for the wax. That was lucky. I almost missed that completely there. We'll just do the parchment of that purity seal very quickly. Just with a little bit of our cream and green mixture. There we go. Just because I needed to anyway, we'll go ahead and do a quick second coat on all the purity seals. And I'm being incredibly paranoid right now because I'm... That's the annoying thing with purity seals. You always feel like you end up missing one of them. so easy to do. Sure, it'll be fine. I think we must have got all of them. Also, I'm just going to go into this slightly. And just blend that out a little bit. Just a bit noticeably too bright. There, that should fix it. Right. I think really all that's left to do then is do a quick little second hit of gunmetal. Just in a few very key areas. Again, mostly just trying to do a quick little second coat. And also using it as the opportunity to pick up any areas where we may have missed it on our original pass. Again, just working very quickly just around those areas where we're blocking in any of the steel colour. Again, just keeping it pretty simple for now. Add a touch more water to that. There we go. Pretty minimal, not much that needed doing with that. That's fine. Looks like we got pretty good coverage in our first pass, which is definitely important. Makes my job so much easier at this point. And yeah, this looks like there's a few areas that do need a little bit of touching up there. Just to really get that colour in. But for the most part, we've been pretty good with it. And then after this, really all that will be left to do will be to just touch up the black a little bit. Not a massive amount that needs doing with that. In fact, they're kind of working in reverse order. Like, we're ending up with the colours we started with. There we go. And just as we've been going again, I've noticed a couple of areas that we just need to touch up a little bit. Nothing too pressing. But it just helps keep that sort of idea of neatness and crispness across the whole model. There we go. Right. Right, so what we can probably get away with... Actually, no, I was going to move up to a bigger brush just for doing the shoulder pads, but that feels a little unnecessary. If we just stick with the black, keep it nice and thin, then we'll be fine. At the end of the day, it's black. It has pretty excellent coverage just on its own merits. really the trick to this is going to be just trying to maintain consistency between layers by keeping it roughly the same viscosity each time. So just controlling how thin the paint is mostly. I'm just going to be very careful as we get around the eye lenses there. And try not to paint over those if we can. And this is where we can afford to be a little bit neater, and that's just with things like this Aquila design here. Now for the main reason we're sticking with this particular size brush for these areas, and that's just the seals in between the suits. Yeah, if we mostly stay around the same amount of thinness, same ratio of paint to water, we can't really go too far wrong. There we go. And same again, just a bit more water, just to give that a nice flow to it. We'll just work in between the armor panels, mostly towards the back here. There we go. Right. What we'll do now, just to finish this up, is we'll start applying some washes in very strategic ways. So we're going to use some Nuln oil to start with. And this is going to be used on the vast majority of the model. On the vast majority of the areas we've painted tonight, at the very least. Then we've got some Agrax Earthshade, just for some of the brass areas. Just need a little bit of that, not too much. And then a little bit of Colia Green shade. And this is going to be used just to add a little bit more depth into certain areas of the model. So we're just going to do a little bit of a panel line or recess shade around some very key areas on the green armour. Mostly just to make the brighter colours stand out a bit more. Right, so we'll start with our Nuln oil. And this, for the most part, is going over all that silver. All that silver over the entirety of these tubes, both the red and the brown. It'll serve the purpose to add some depth and darken down the red, whilst at the same time making the separation between the different segments of the brown tubes that we're going to be painting up in black and yellow. It's going to make that stand out a bit more. And if it starts pooling in places, we're just going to take a drier brush and just absorb some of that wash. Just so we've got a little bit more control over exactly where it lays and how it appears on the model. Mostly trying to avoid any issues where we might have like coffee staining or pooling. There we are, just like that. And we'll go in with the Agrax. And we'll work that in across all of the brass areas where there's mostly the brass areas where there's some recessed detail or where we want to shade down the colour a little bit, such as with the barrels on the flame gauntlets, with these the reliquaries that are hanging off the belt here, and with the Aquila as well. We'll just paint a little bit of it into the brass areas of the Prometheum tanks as well. And we are just like that. And just to finish it up a little bit, again we'll go with some Cordy green shade. I'm just going to work some of this in between the areas of the purity seal. And just very carefully into some of these recesses in the armor panels. We don't have to do all of them, just in areas where we want some of the detail to separate a bit. And in some of the deeper recesses, just to add a little bit of extra depth to some of these areas. With a little bit of patience, a little bit of practice, you can make a really good go of this. But by no means does it have to be perfect. If you're playing along at home, you can take your time with it. There we go. Just in between the joints and the fingers here as well. I'm just going to work a little bit of this into the wax and the purity seal as well. for the most part, just being a little selective about which areas we apply this to. Just so we're not spending ages on this one part of it. It's just in any area where we can bump up the contrast on the green. That's kind of where we're trying to focus this a little bit. There we are. Just apply a little bit of it into some of those areas around the helmet. And just into those recesses there around the backpack. Yeah, just like that. It just bumps up that level of detail just that little bit extra. And we can do something very similar with this one here. We just focus our washes in very specific places and in very specific ways. Here we go. across there. There we go. Just very carefully, just very lightly over the top of that rope around the Aquila there. And same with the rope around the belt. And just to make sure we get all the areas that we need to, we'll also go just underneath here and into those Prometheum tanks as well. Right. Same as before. Little bit of Agrax Earthshade. We'll just focus this around any of these gold and brass details. We just want them to stand out a little bit. And just over the top of the barrels on the flame gauntlets as well. Just to darken some of that colour down a bit. And we'll paint a little bit of the Agrax into the Aquila there, just to give that some depth. Same with the skull and wreath on that shoulder pad there, and also the skull in the middle of his forehead as well. We'll just... I do believe my phone battery's run out of charge. Okay, that's fine. Tell you what, I'll move over to this camera here for now, and we'll probably end the stream very shortly. In fact, yeah. Because all I've got left to do now is just a quick little bit of panel lining on this last one here. We'll try and burn through that nice and quick. In fact, what I'll probably do instead is I'll do that myself off stream in just a moment. So, let's see if we can go raid. That seems like a good idea. Big thank you to everyone who's came out tonight, though. It's been absolutely wonderful. I've had a fantastic time with you all. We'll be back again tomorrow afternoon. I'm aiming for about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, but we'll see how we go. Ooh. Tell you what, I'll shove you all over at Ryboog. Oh no, I won't. It looks like he's gone for a break. Studio J7. He's been gone for like 4 hours though, so there's a possibility he might not be sticking around. There we go. There we are. So, yes, I'll be back again tomorrow afternoon. We'll might crack back on with these some more, or what we might do is we might work on something different. I just realised we haven't gone into the Discord at any point today, even though it's WIP Wednesday. We'll do that tomorrow. Oh, dear, oh dear. Right. I'll see you all tomorrow afternoon. Bye!